Yay, I figured it out. Okay. I figured out how to record without pushing too many buttons. So we'll see how it happens. Let me mess with one thing really quick just to see if I could figure it out. Okay, cool. No, hold on. Sorry, guys. Just want to make sure this is easier for me later. Okay, cool. All right. Okay, sorry, guys. Technical difficulties here. Come on. Okay, figured it out. Okay, sorry. All right, so today's lesson. So today should be Friday, April 18th. I'm sorry I'm gone. I've already told you ahead of time I was going to be gone. Try to make sure you're on your best behavior. Make sure you're following along. If you have any questions, write your questions in your workbook and then save it for Monday. I'm more than happy to go over your questions on Monday when I come back from the weekend. Okay, so I'll be definitely back on Monday. We're gonna have to modify the lesson today because I noticed with the lesson and how it is, it normally would be me interviewing you guys and collecting data from you as a class. But unfortunately, since I'm not here, I can't do that. So we're gonna use information from previous years to help you teach about statistical questions. So your goal today is actually to learn about what a statistical question is, and then also understand how to represent data with dot plots and bar graphs. So that's the three things we're going to talk about today: dot plots, bar graphs, and statistical questions. Okay, so right here, you guys have a picture with some bottle caps. And what I asked my students to do is guess how many bottle caps are in those plastic containers. Well, this is the data we got last year. So I want you guys to fill out this data. We're going to number this number line. And we started with 70, 71, 72, 73, 74, 75, 76, 77, 78, 79, 80, 81, 82, 83, 84, and 85. Okay, so that's why we numbered it. We're talking about the number of bottle caps in the jar. Okay, so before I actually continue on, let's talk about a few things that you need to know about. Some vocabulary that you need to know. For example, you need to know what a statistical question is. Okay, so a statistical question. Well, the word statistics, because this is a new unit we're going to be talking about. We're going to be talking about data and statistics. Really, the word statistics means the study of data. Humans, we have questions, and sometimes we want answers to those questions. So we'll complete or create surveys and ask people questions to kind of study habits. And by studying those habits and collecting the data from those kinds of questions, we can actually make theories about what's going to happen in the future. So that's the idea of data. And that's the point of this unit, is that we're going to be studying the things like that. We're going to ask statistical questions and answer information relating to data. So a statistical question, oops, my bad. I meant question, not questions, because grammar is important. Okay, so a statistical question can be answered by collecting data and has various responses. Okay, it has to have many different responses. It can't just have one or two answers. So a statistical question has to be a question where you can get more than two answers. So yes and no questions are not statistical questions. Those are definitely not it. But questions like, how many of you, like, how many siblings do you have at your house? Or what kind of type of pet do you have? Those questions can give you many different answers, but you don't want anything that's just going to give you two answers. Like yes or no questions are not statistical questions, and true and false is also not a statistical question, because you can only have two answers. It's either the answer is true or it's false, or the answer is yes or it's no. That is definitely not statistical. Okay, so we often use the number line to organize data and create what we call a dot plot. And the reason it's called dots is because we use dots to graph it. So be sure that when you are making a dot plot, you want to label that number line. So like we did, we labeled it from 70 to 85 based on my data. And we're going to look at this. We should have a total of 26 dots. Okay, because that's how many kids I had that year. So let's look. It looks like I have 3 kids that guessed 72. So I'm going to put 3 dots here. And looks like I got 5 here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 over 73. 2 kids guessed here at 74. 1 kid guessed 75. No kids guessed 76 and 77. I got 78, 78, 2 at 78, 2 at 79, and then 5 at 80. Okay, then I got 2 at 81. It looks like I got 2 more at 82. I got 2 at 83. Is that all I got? Yep. Okay, so a few things to note, just so you guys can notice right here, is that I have no guesses on these numbers. So there's 0 guesses here. We don't have anything there. Nada, zilch. So anytime you don't see dots in over a number, that means the answer is 0. Like there's nobody that guessed that. Okay. A few other things I want you guys to note is these two tall towers here at 73 and 80. We have 5 students guessing in that box, or that section right there of the data. So we actually have a word for that. That is what we call our mode. So our mode is oftentimes the number that you will see often. Okay. So mode is the highest frequency, we call it. And I'll define what frequency means in a bit. So it's basically the number that you see the most in a data set. So those are our modes. So we actually have 2 modes. So we have 73 and 80. Those are both of our modes. Okay. Other things you can notice, if you want to take a time to kind of guess more notices, you're more than welcome to add more. Last year, my students, what did they say? They noticed that a lot of our data is in this section here, and we can look at how much data is in that section. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. We notice that there is 15 out of 26 kids that actually, in this case, that actually have, sorry, I didn't mean to say this. There is 15 out of 26 kids that actually guessed higher in our number of bottle caps. So in this case, actually this number, it looks like it is more than 50%. So more than 50% of students actually were guessing higher than 78. Okay, so that's just a notice that we said last year that was kind of important to note, is that we could see that there is more than 50% kids guessing at 78, more than 78 bottles in that jar. Okay. All right, so we use the data of blank to describe the information that shows all the data values and how often they occur. So when we're trying to describe the information and how often they occur, we're talking about the word distribution. And we're going to talk about the different kinds of distribution and data throughout this unit. There's 3 different kinds you'll see when we're describing the distribution of the data and how it looks. So we actually have more vocab words going with that. Okay, so distribution. Blank refers to the number of times a data value occurs. That is what we call frequency. So how often something happens, we're talking about the frequency of the data. All right. Let's move on. All right, if you want to pause here in this video and try to attempt activity 1.3, been there, done that on your own, you are more than welcome to pause the video at this moment and give yourself about like 5-ish minutes to try to start this activity on your own. And then you could start the video back up to make sure we're double checking your answers. All right. So, I'm gonna apologize again ahead of time. I'm recording this video in one go. If I make some mistakes, I am sorry. That's just the way how videos work when you're recording yourself teaching. It's always not perfect, but I'm trying my best. So, again, this video is also going to be linked onto the Math Canvas page. So you feel like it was too rushed throughout the period, you're more than welcome to go on the Math Canvas page and rewatch this video as many times as you need for this lesson too. Okay, so Priya wants to know if basketball players on men's team and women's team have had prior experience in international competitions. So that's the question she has. She wants to know if basketball players have had prior experience. Okay. She gathered data on the number of times the players were on the team from 2016. That is a while ago. We have the men's team. Okay. And then we have the women's team. So this, she surveyed people and this is what they said. This is data, the number of times each player was on the team, on another team before 2016. Okay. So did Priya collect categorical or numerical data? New vocab words that you need to know. So numerical and categorical data. Which one is it? Well, let's talk really quick. What do you think categorical is? Well, categorical data, to be a little bit specific with our vocabulary here that you need to know, categorical data means that your responses are most likely in words. So you get responses in words. Versus numerical, well, think about the fact that it's called, there's the word number in it. So numerical is your response in numbers. So that's the difference between the two. Okay, so the question is, which one is it? Do you think we're having categorical data or numerical data? Well, in this case, since all these are just numbers, we have numerical data. So this is numerical data. Okay. All right, let's move on. Oops, sorry. Let's Knutson, try to get it zoomed in. Okay, so all right, so let's organize our information. So the next thing we want to do is organize the information into these tables. We have men's and then we have women's. So we have women's basketball. I'm just going to color code to kind of organize my data here. Okay, so men's, so number prior. So how often do we see 0 in the data? So I'm gonna scroll up. If I can try to put this all on one page, that would be great. Okay, cool. Hopefully you guys can see that. Okay, trying my best. So let's see how many times we could see 0 in the list. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I see 10. So 10 zeros. Okay, how many ones do I see? I see 1 in the list for men. I don't see any 2s, so I'm going to put a 0 there. Do I see any 3s? I see 1 3. And how many 4s do I see? I see no 4s. All right, let's look at women's data. I'm going to scroll up so it's a little easier to see, hopefully. So, women's data, how many zeros do we see? We see 1, 2, 3 zeros for women's. 1. So 1, 2, 3, 4 ones. Okay. 1, 2, 2 twos. How many 3s? 1, 2, 3, 3 3s. And then how many 4s? I don't see any 4s. Okay, just organizing our information. All right, go ahead and flip for me. I am now on page 164. So let's practice making dot plots. We organized our data. Now we're going to make dot plots. I do not know why I put all my highlighters to one side and far away from me. All right, make a dot plot for each table. So again, we have men's team and women's team. Okay, and let's see. So men's team, I had 10 information. So I'm going to put 10 dots. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. And if it helps, sometimes I put the number on top so I can see that I know that should be 10. Okay. Then I have 1 dot at 1. Again, I'm going to put a 1 here so I know it's 1. 0 at 2, so I'm not going to put anything there. And then 1 at 3. So I got 1 dot at 3. So, and then nothing at 4. So that's where you're at for men's. All right, women's. Women's looks like there was 3. So I'm going to put 3 dots. Again, putting a number above might help. 4 dots. Okay. 2 dots. I got 3 dots. And then how many dots do I have? 4? None at 4, so I'm going to leave that alone. So there's the women's dot plot. All right, now we're going to study our dot plots. So let's study our dot plots. What do they tell you about the competition participation of the players on the men's basketball team? Okay, so we want to know what they tell us about the players on the men's basketball team. So what did we notice here? Well, it looks like if I look at my data, a lot of men actually had no prior experience in competitions. That's what it tells me here, because there's a lot of people, a lot of players that said 0 experience in international competitions. So that's actually what I would say. Most players have no prior international competition, big words, competition experience. So that's what it shows me right there. Okay. All right, let's look at the women's data. What does the dot plot tell us about the women's data? Well, if I look at this is pretty even. Like a lot of the players for women actually did have at least 1 to 3 experiences. And that's what I would say is that I could say the players, a majority of the players of players had prior competition experience at least 1 to 3 prior competitions. I just realized I misspelled competition. Sorry about that. Pause for you guys to catch up and copy that, hopefully. All right. Okay, so let's continue. Explain why the dot plot is an appropriate representation for Priya's data. Well, why do you think a dot plot would be good for data? If you look at the dot plot, what comes to mind when it comes to like why dot plot is a good visual for data? In my mind, it's simple and organized. So I would say it's simple and organized. So you can easily see the distribution of data. That's why I kind of like dot plots, because it really is just simple and organized. You can see like where a lot of the dots cluster to, and then it kind of gives you more information on what's going on with your data. All right, let's move on. If you want to pause the video here, you're more than welcome to pause the video and try to do activity 1.4, favorite summer sports. And then you can start the video up again and make sure you double check your answer. So like I said, go ahead and pause the video here for like 5 minutes if you have the time, and then try do this activity and then start the video up again. Okay, so favorite summer sports. Kieran wants to know which three summer sports are most popular in his class. He surveyed his classmates on their favorite summer sport. Here are their responses. So we're going to have to organize that data. So this is normally how data comes to you. It's it's like a list. And then you have to go back in and organize the data to actually see what's going on. So let's go down and let me zoom in. Oopsie, my bad. Hopefully that did not give anyone a headache. You might hear somebody vacuuming, sorry. So did Kieran collect categorical or numerical data? Well, since our answers are words, it is categorical data. Because we're talking about words. So we just did numerical on the last activity. Now we're going to work on categorical data and see how those two compare. All right, so let's organize the responses in the table to help him find which is the most popular. Okay, so let's look at a few sports here and just start kind of filling out our table. So the first one I see is swimming. So you know what? I'm going to switch to a pencil just in case I make mistakes here. So we're going to type in swimming, write swimming. And it looks like if I count, I have 5 swimming. All right. Gymnastics. Can I just write gym? You guys know that gym is just gymnastics, right? No. Mind. I'm going to be picky. Oops, my bad. Let me sharpen my pencil. All right. So swimming, and then I got gymnastics. And if you count gymnastics, you should have got 5 as well for gymnastics. Okay, double check if you didn't. Then we have track and field. Let's see, I got 7 for track and field. Then I got diving. That is 3. Then we got basketball. How many for basketball? We got 2. And then we got soccer. That is also 2. And then volleyball. That is 4. And then rowing. That is 2. By the way, if you don't know what rowing is, rowing, for those of you that don't know what rowing is, it's where you're in the boat, like that canoe shaped like boat. You have like about 5 or 6 people on a team in those boats, and you're just rowing back. Normally you're rowing back and racing. So oftentimes you'll see people in these like boats. So this is my drawing. And then what happens is you'll see people. Yep, those are my people. Stick figures, sorry. Anyways, you have stick figures, like people, and what happens is they have these like how do I describe it? They're like these oars, like they're like these paddle oars that they're going to use to sorry for my drawing, but they're these paddles, and what happens is they rotate in a circular manner. So they rotate. Okay. And what happens is when they do that, they go backwards. So that's rowing, by the way, just so you guys know. Mrs. Knutson's visual for rowing, but that's really what rowing is. So you have people inside and then they just I wish you could see me visually, but the idea is they just take those oars, we call them oars, and they just pull back and go backwards. And there's races. In high school, depending on the high school you go to, there's teams. I know Everett High School has a rowing team. So if you're going to Everett High and you're interested in that, go ahead and join. They definitely have a team for that. All right. Let's flip. I'm gonna go to page 166. All right, instead of a dot plot, we are now going to make a bar graph. Well, the idea of a bar graph and the reason why it's called a bar graph is because you should have what we call bars. So just like tape diagrams, they are going to be like that, but it's more like a vertical line. So you got to label. So again, labeling is important. This right here is our frequency. So how often something happens. So please make sure you label. If you have this on a test and you do not label when you're supposed to, I will have to dock points. So, all right. And then go ahead and write your team. So just so I can make this easier, because I cannot write sideways, I'm going to do this. Sorry, guys. Not trying to give you a headache. And I'm going to just go ahead and write the teams. I'm going to leave a space just so it's visually more appealing and nicer to look at. So, and you can make it easy. So I got swim, me. So if it helps, you could just write swim. And then I'm going to give a space, write gym for gymnastics. Then I got track. Okay. Then I got diving. Skip one. Diving. Okay. Then I got basketball. That one I have to write the whole thing. Then I got soccer. Skip one. I got volleyball. And then skip one. I got rowing. Okay. So go ahead and write those. All right. So now I'm going to do it based on my table. So It looks like if I look at my table on the other page, swimming is 5. So I'm gonna go 5. I'm gonna draw a bar above swimming right there. Okay. If it helps, you could totally like highlight it. Sometimes I have kids that just want to highlight it. Then gym was also 5. Oh, and I put numbers on top to make it easier. So 5. That's 5 too. Okay. And then I got 7 for track. So notice when I'm drawing a line, I'm going all the way up to 7 and I'm stopping there. And then I'm just drawing a bar over track. I'm getting lazy. You can totally color those in more if you want, but I'm kind of getting lazy. My highlighter is not actually working. Like I want it to be a thicker color, but it's not. Let's see if I could change a blue and make it thicker. Sort of. Okay. Anyways, we're just gonna go from there. So then we have 3 for diving. 2. And then it looks like I got 2 for soccer. Okay. 4 for volleyball. And then I got 2 for rowing. Okay. And you know me, I liked it to be a little bit more visual. You can't add color this in properly. Mrs. Knutson struggling here with her color coding skills. All right. There you go. So that's what it looks like. Okay. All right. How can you use your bar graph to find how many classmates Kieran surveyed? Well, just add all the bars together. That's what I would do. So add, oops, I want to do a pen. Add all the bars together. So 5 plus 5 plus 7 plus 3 plus 2 plus 2 plus 4 plus 2. And that gets me a total of 30. So that's the total surveyed. There you go. All right, let's keep going. Which of the summer sports, so which of these summer sports, which of the 3 summer sports are the most popular in Kieran's class? So let's see. Well, it would mean that it would be the bars that are the highest, right? So if we're looking for something that's the most popular, we want the bars to be the highest. So the highest bars. Okay. And we want the top 3 in this case. So let's go up here. Okay, and which one's the highest bars? That would be 7 right here for track. Okay. What's another one? It looks like it would be the next ones would be 5 and 5. So that's swimming and gymnastics. So there you go. So that would be in order from track, swimming, and gymnastics. Okay. All right. Use your bar graph to describe at least one observation about Kieran's classmates' preferred summer sports. Okay. Well, if I look at this, most of my data looks like it is to the left right here. I could see that a lot of the data is on the left side right there. So that's a good observation to note, is I see a lot of the data is actually over there. So I could circle this and be like that. So sorry, guys. Okay, but that looks like most of the data if I was to look at this. Okay, so most of my data is on the left, which makes me think that if you look at a lot of the data on the left too, it's swimming, it's gymnastics, it's track, it's diving here. And I could see those are kind of dry sports. Besides the swimming, we have a lot of more dry sports here than actual wet sports. So it's just something to keep in mind, but you could describe it like that. You could say a lot of the data shifted to the left. So most of the data distribution is shifted left. Okay. And last question. Could a dot plot be used to represent Kieran's data? Explain your reasoning. Well, in this case, yeah, it could. You would get the same results as a bar graph, actually. You would just have dots and it would show the same kind of distribution. So, yes. Dot plots are similar to bar graphs, but they tend to be used more for numerical data. And the reason for why they're used more for numerical data, dot plots are, is because the fact that you are using a number line to organize the data. But it doesn't mean that you can't use it for categorical data. You would have the same results. Okay. All right. Well, that is it. And that is the end of today's lesson. If you're done early, go ahead and use the rest of the time class time for like study hall to catch up with other classwork that you have not done. Have a great weekend. I'll see ya on Monday. I'm gonna pause. Stop recording.